Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. It's KLOS New and Approved. I'm here with a guy that, man, I've loved these guys for so long, this band. So excited about the second leg of the tour for Invincible Shield. It's Ian Hill from Judas Priest. Ian, how are you, man?
I'm fine, Matthew. How you doing yourself?
I'm good, man. It was great. You know, the show I saw you do at Sonic Temple was amazing this year. I loved seeing you guys play and getting to hang out and talk to you there, and getting to see Rob and everybody was really cool. So I just want to say, how great is it? Are you excited that you guys have added the second leg to this tour? Because it's just so, your fans are pumped about it.
Yeah. It was always intended to come back for a second leg. You know, when you get a new album, you like to keep the album fresh wherever you go. You know, so you do I don't know, 6 weeks here, 6 weeks there, and then you come back and you do it again. You know, but yeah, we're pumped. You know, we're loving every minute of it at the moment. We've been at it. I think we started out in Europe in I think it was March this year. So we've already done 2 tours of Europe. We've done one of America. We're in the second leg here. We've got about 3 weeks left here, and then we're off to Japan for 2 weeks. So then we get a bit of time off at Christmas, and we start again. I think it's in April.
That's amazing. Ian, so I was at the shows. I was at the first New York show when you opened for Stars and Aria Speedwagon as a kid, and I love that. I went out and bought Sin After Sin the next day. It was I was blown away. I went there because I was there to check out Stars, and I left there a huge Judas Priest fan and have been ever since. Can you talk to me, Ian, about that first tour when you first came to America on that first tour? What were some of your earliest memories of that? Was America all you expected it to be at that period of time?
Oh yeah, and more. I mean, we'd been to Europe. We'd been to several places in Europe, you know, before then. And then when we signed with CBS, that they had the financial clout to send us to the States, you know. And it's funny. I had the feeling of being conspicuous. It sounds stupid, you know, but you just felt like you stood out for some reason or another, you know, because everybody's walking around with American accents. We're in New York as well, you know, so it's quite a pronounced accent. And here are we, you know, talking sort of. I mean, I've lost a lot of my accent. I've had to over the years because people got to understand my broad black country accent, you know, which is where the area of Britain I'm from.
Yeah, the Midlands and Birmingham, right?
Yeah. That's right, yeah. So it just felt like you stuck out like a sore thumb. And everything was, I don't know, I just got the feeling that everything was sort of convenient. Oh, you want something? Yeah, okay. You know, rather than, oh, you want something? Oh, let us see about that, which is the general thing you get in Europe, you know, Britain in particular, you know. So, yeah, it was everything and more than we expected, you know, and we've loved the place ever since.
Yeah, it was great. And then, of course, I came back and saw you again. Then I was a big fan. Stained Class, it was the Gods. You guys second, you moved up on the bill, and then Angel. So I was there for that show, too, and that was at the New York Palladium. Both of those shows were just very important in my upbringing and my love of rock. And it was just, it was cool. So as you came back over those years and you saw your fan base building, was it you realized that there was something really brewing in America at that time, wasn't there, Ian?
Yeah, it was very early days of heavy metal. In fact, it had only just been coined heavy metal. When we first started out, late 60s, early 70s, it was progressive rock or heavy rock or whatever, you know. And it wasn't until the late 70s, really, when somebody said they're a heavy metal band, you knew what to expect. So it was still very much experimental. And I think the whole music scene was still very experimental back then. I mean, you had you had the hardcore, you got the country music, you got the jazz and things like that. You got big band music and pop music, but the rock and roll and rock music was evolving out of blues and stuff like that. You know, and going in various directions. So it was all very very experimental in those days. So yeah, I mean. There was like an apprenticeship you served in America in particular. The first time you went, you were playing bars and clubs, or you were first on the bill with about 20 minutes in one spotlight, you know. And the second time, with a bit of luck, you'd moved up like, as you say, you'd moved up a rung on the ladder. And the third or fourth time, with a bit of luck, you were headlining your own modest shows, your town halls, the Agora ballrooms and things like that. And the Palladium, which is an excellent gig, by the way. I love that place. I have very fond memories of that. It's just such a pity it stopped having live music,
Yeah, because that was one of my favorite places, man. I mean, seeing you guys there, that venue was just great. It was perfect for metal and rock and roll for me. I got you guys. I saw Thin Lizzy. There's so many great bands over the years, and it was just
that's right. That's right. I mean, there was. I mean, a lot of bands. There's a few bands who could play the Enormo Dome, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? And everybody else, as you're moving up, you were playing those places, So you have a great fondness for them all those years ago, because without them, probably we wouldn't be here. It was just a great, beautiful place to play. 2,000-3,000 people, maybe 4 in some of them, and it's perfect. Really perfect shows. And that was small enough to keep that connection with the audience as well. They're not 10 feet away. And sort of 6 feet down. The people at the front can't see. Because it's crazy too high and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you've got that connection with the crowd. Which is important in any kind of music, I suppose, any kind of art, I suppose. And that's why we love them so much, But as time goes by, you start to get more popular if you're lucky, and of course then you start to move into the amphitheaters and the sports stadiums and things like that, and that's what we did, into the 80s. There we were playing to a hell of a lot of people every night.
And it was beautiful. Hey, let's talk about, Ian, like your bass playing style I loved. And I love the fact that you actually learned from your dad originally, right? Because your dad was a jazz bass player. And I know that playing a double bass and stuff like that. Talk to me about that.
That's right, yeah. It's a very long story. I won't tell you all of it. I should have played trombone. My dad was insistent that I was going to play trombone. But when I signed up for the trombone at my high school, they went out. So anyway, he decided, long story short, he started to show me the rudiments on the double bass, which only lasted a few months, really. He got sick with cancer, and he died when I was 15, so that was the end of my tuition on the double bass.
I'm sorry about that. I mean,
Yeah, it was a blow, but life is what it is. And not long after that, I picked up a bass guitar, found it was ultimately easier to play, ultimately easier to carry about.
Yeah, I mean, a Fender jazz bass you used in the beginning, like early on, right? And
yeah, it wasn't that. I mean, I converted an old 6-string electric guitar, an old Watkins Rapier. You just knocked it about a bit, just put 4 strings on it and started with that.
That's cool. Really? That's great. Do you by any chance still have that bass? Like, is that, I wondered, is it something?
No, I binned it. I did bin it. It was, it wasn't worth much anyway, From there, I bought an old Epiphone Rivoli, which is like the semi-acoustic EB2 style bass, and I played with that for quite a while, and that's when I started with the Fender right before we did the first album in '74.
Yeah.
And I had that for years. I still got it, in fact, the old Fender.
I'm so glad you still have that. And I always loved the picking style too, even though you use a pick now. But I love the fact that for so many years you played with your own finger picking style, and the sounds that you were able to get at that period.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, when I'm doodling at home, I always fall back into that. I always play. I'm a natural finger player. I play with my fingers. The reason I changed was pretty much when Glenn came along, and you've got one distorted guitar and you had to fill in, so you needed that big, bassy, enormous sound. But when you've got 2 distorted guitars, you don't need that anymore. Yeah. You need something sharp, and you need something to cut through, So that's when I started using a pick, and carried on with that, And,
yeah, well, I love that. Hey, Ian, what were the records for you? Obviously, I remember talking to Rob about, I think the first show he went to, he snuck into a Dave D. Dozy, Beacon Mick, and Titch show. But what were yeah, exactly, which is cool. But what were some of the earliest bass players you loved and bands, and then like one of the first shows you saw live? Because I always talk about your early shows to people.
Yeah.
Tell me about you. I mean,
it's great. I mean, back then you had huge artists. You had Pink Floyd, you had Cream, you had all of these immense artists, and they'd all come through and play your local town hall. That was the scene in Britain at the time. There wasn't great auditoriums. There were town halls, and there were cinemas maybe and things like that, and theatres. And I can remember I was always into music, obviously through my dad. I was brought up with listening to music all the time. And at the school dance, of course, you have a live band on, and I sort of got the bug from that and what have you. But the first live show, I think I went to, there's a great club called Mothers in the Birmingham area, and I think it might have been John Mayall's Blues Breakers.
Great first show, right?
He wasn't with Eric Clapton because he'd already left. He'd gone on. I think it was with Mick Taylor.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was Peter Green.
Oh, Peter Green. Wow. So it was even that period. That's great.
Yeah. I was only young. I probably shouldn't have been there.
That's a cool thing you got to do. You got to sneak in when you're a kid and go see those shows, right?
Yeah. I think that was the first show. When Greenie left, he obviously formed the first Fleetwood Mac, and I became a big fan of those. I was a big Cream fan, massive Cream fan. One of my biggest regrets is I never got to see them live. Got to see all three of them individually. Did
you ever have any conversations with Jack Bruce? Did you ever talk to him at all?
I didn't know. I would have loved to have had a chat with him. I really would. He's my all-time idol. I mean, I listen back to some of those live Cream songs, where they take a 3-minute song and they just wander off, and 15 minutes later they all get back together and finish.
Yeah.
And all that stuff that went on, in between. I would have loved to have talked to him about that.
Yeah, like those Wheels of Fire and all the, like the live, all those records were incredible, right? Weren't they?
Yeah. Oh, that's what that entrenched my area of interest, shall we say?
Yeah, I always think it's crazy. I'm sure you agree how they recorded Disraeli Gears while they were doing one of those Murray the K things, playing a few songs a night, and then coming back to the studio and then recording a couple tunes in New York City, and then
Yeah, they used to record him in about 5 or 6 days.
Yes.
I
know, right?
Yeah, I mean, our first album, it took us 3 weeks, I think, to do that,
Yeah.
But I think it says a lot about their musicianship. They were masters, all masters in their own field, when they were together with Cream. And, nothing's easy, but it probably came easier to them,
Yeah, and I mean, and Jack had a great voice too, right? I mean,
He was a tremendous voice. He was voted, I think, 2 or 3 years running, of all things, best jazz vocalist.
Yeah.
Where the hell I got that from? In the Melody Maker. It used to be one of the music magazines.
Yeah, one of the weeklies, right? Yeah, with sounds and
the New Musical Express. Yeah. That's right. He had a tremendous voice. But my only non-litigious opinion, I thought it was much better than Clapton's voice. I thought he got a lot more power to it. He sang with a hell of a lot more emotion.
Yeah, it really did, because there was more resin in his voice, and it just sounded like it had power. It was, you know what I mean?
I think the difference was that he sang angry.
Yes.
He was angry.
He
was angry that his woman had got on the train and left him. He wasn't whining about it. Oh, God, what am I going to do? He was angry about it,
Yeah.
And that was his style. And I'm looking for it,
It was amazing.
He was a good keyboard player as well.
Yeah, he was just an amazing talent. If only him and Ginger could have gotten along a little better towards the later part, but that's all right. He did songs for Taylor and all those other records too. There's some cool stuff. But hey, so I also want to ask you, Ian, when you got together with the guys, when you first met up with the guys, what was the bonding thing? Did you talk about the records that you loved, or that you had a direction you wanted to go? Because it was amazing going from, Sad Wings of Destiny, Rock and Roll, and then of course when you got the deal with CBS and Sin After Sin. But what was the thing that you guys bonded over when you knew you wanted to? These were the guys you would be in a band with.
It came from our love of the music. I mean, Ken and myself, we'd known each other since we were about 6 years old.
You and Glenn were in what would be called primary school together, elementary school, right?
That's right, yeah. And we were never great friends. I mean, we knew each other to nod to and say hello to and whatever. But when we started to get into 14, 15 years of age, something like that, we realised we've got a similar taste in music, and it bonds you, you know, and you start hanging about with like-minded people, don't you? I mean, it doesn't matter what area it is, you do that, and that, of course, created a great friendship together with another old school chum, John Ellis, who was a drummer, and we went from there, you know. Ken was a big Hendrix fan. I was a big Cream fan. And John, of all things, he was a Sabbath fan, you know.
Yeah.
He listened to Sabbath. And Alan Atkins came along, and that was the first lineup, you know. That was about... And although we started in 1969, the first gig was early 1970, you know.
That's amazing. There were so many great bands around that period of time, too.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And where you came from, too, the Black Country, the Midlands, Birmingham, and it was just like, there was something about in the water there, because people really, you know, it was powerful music, you know what I mean? It still holds up today in so many ways.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the time, it was very, very industrial. It was, imagine Detroit.
Yeah.
It was a bit like that, you know, car factories, steel factories, aluminium founders. I mean, on the bus to school, I used to go past the factory that made hand grenades and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, it's called the Black Country for a very good reason. I mean, it was so industrial. Everything was covered in soot. And, you know, if you're going to write a song, you're not going to write about trees and flowers and birds flapping about. Oh, you know, it's going to be something heavier and more gritty than that.
Yeah.
And I think that's got a lot to do with it. I mean, Sabbath, of course, they came from there. Electric Light Orchestra, Parts of People, The Move, and they'd all got that edge, you know, especially, and of course, Rob Plant came from just down the road as well. They'd all got that edge, you know, that harder edge.
Absolutely. And then, you know, even Slade were from there, right? So you got, like, you know, Noddy, which was great. You know, Noddy's had that rough voice, and Dave Hill and those guys, they were killer, right? I mean,
I can remember, I saw Slade when they were Ambrose Slade.
Yeah.
And they were just an out-and-out rock band, and they were terrific. They were a great band, they really were. And that was at a small gig. That was at the Connaught Hotel in Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
And I loved them, you know, they were great. Then they went through their skinhead thing, you know, the Bother Boys.
Yeah.
And then they went into glam rock after that, you know, but they were still a great band. They still had that, like you say, that edge. They got that anger, a little bit of, you know, angst there, you know.
Yeah.
And, it served them well, you know.
It did. And it was great stuff. Tell me about, and with Rob, when you first heard him sing, did you and Glenn say, man, this is a guy, he's got the pipes. How was that feeling?
Yeah, Ken and myself, we just thought we'd try him out, you know. And, you know, but as soon as we did, we knew that he was something special. He's got a tremendous range of I think he's 3 octaves, something like that. He's got a range, which was unbelievable at the time. And of course, he was from the same part of the world as we were, so he got that same grittiness, you know, that same sort of outlook as the rest of us had, you know. And he was into the similar bands that we were. He was also a Hendrix fan, Cream. He was into all of that kind of stuff. Bowie, of course. And he fit right in. And he's a great bloke as well, you know. I mean, it's so easy to get along with. And that was it. And then Glenn comes along, and you form a friendship. I mean, it's formed when you're doing things like you go to Norway in the van.
Yeah.
In February. You know, and you're sleeping in the back of the van. You put your gear in the van and put the mattresses on the top. you do the show and then sleep in the car park and, you know, in freezing cold weather. That's what you did, you know, and you form a bond, you know, through doing things like that, and it's always with you. And we'll always be great friends. We always will, you know, till our dying day.
Yeah.
Regardless of if we're on different sides of an ocean, you know, we're still tremendous friends, and we always will be.
I love that about you guys. I mean, I've always felt that. And I also felt like, again, when you guys were carrying the torch and really introducing the world to metal, and you know, because of all the things that were coming, it was just a great, for me, it was exciting to be there and young enough to be actually kind of seeing the band grow and keep going and seeing you guys throughout all those tours. You know,
that's right, yeah. Because heavy metal evolved. You know, it didn't exist, like I say, when we first started out, and I mean, the music was there, but the image certainly wasn't. We were still wearing satins and velvets and things, and flowing scarves and hippie kind of stuff, which was the thing at the time. And it wasn't until it must have been after seeing maybe, and somebody walked in a leather coat and thought, oh yeah, that's a good image for the kind of music we're playing, and that's where that came from. We went on from there, and it goes hand in hand now, heavy metal and leather and studs sort of thing.
It does. I mean, you guys changed the whole fashion thing, and it became a calling card for so many people, which was a great thing.
Yeah.
How that evolved, and like I said, again, seeing you listen to new records. There's so many good songs on this record. The band sounds great on this. You know what I mean? And I was really for me, that's an important thing when you come out with something new, and the songs are really strong. So I love that fact that Take Panic Attack. So, these different songs that are just they feel good, but they also feel like an evolution. Because I mean, you think about how many years you've been making records, great records, whether it's Screaming for Vengeance or Killing Machine. I mean, and so I mean, for you guys, it felt to me like when I listened to this record, like you were excited to still be writing and recording new songs and something new there.
Yeah, I mean, with every record, we try and take a step forward with every one, from rock and roll all the way through, looking for something different, something a little bit better, at least in our own opinions. And we still carry that with us today. We always try and take a step forward. If you can't, there's not a great deal of point in doing it, or new material. I mean, some bands do it, don't they? They do the same album over and over again in different keys and different timings, and people love them for it. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I can remember a famous quote by Angus Young. He was doing an interview somewhere, I forget where it was. Anyway, the interviewer accused him of doing 12 albums all the same. He said, that's absolutely wrong. He said, we've done 13 albums all the same. The people love them for it. I love them for it. I love AC/DC,
Oh, yeah, they're one of the greatest.
But we've never done that. We've always tried to take that step forward. And I think it's one of the biggest reasons why we've been able to last as long as we have. Because if you're keeping, current, you can make that connection with a younger audience. If you played somebody, Invincible Shield, for instance, and you didn't tell anybody who it was, it could be any one of a number of brand new bands, and I think that's one of the reasons there's so many young faces down there, because we can connect with them,
You absolutely do, and there's generations. I love to see the generations of fans. I'm talking about young kids. I've gone to the shows, that, and it's like I'll see 10 and 11-year-olds there, and I'll see people that are my age. You know what I mean? So it's great.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah,
So
it is. Yeah. You can see, like you say, grandpa, father, and son.
Yeah, it's exactly it. 100%. Rock. That's the beauty of rock and roll and metal and every. Is that it's something you can share with your kids and family, and it's just that's what it's all about. Ian, this was such a great opportunity to sit here and talk to you, man. I loved catching up with you. I just wanted to
we could keep this up all day if we wanted to, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could, right? And, because it's just, I feel so lucky to have been at those early shows. I'm so, when I tell people, they're like, you're kidding me. I'm like, no, I was there. I went out the next day, and then I went to the record store and found Sad Wings of Destiny and Rock and Roller because, all of a sudden they were stocking them. You know what I mean? And it was, and then, again, I just followed through the years. So thank you for all the great music, and and just also for spending the time and remembering those early tours, because that's always excited me. Just I think about you guys and just the trajectory you guys have been on that's been so great and so influential to so many other artists, and I just think it's a beautiful thing. You know what I mean? I love it.
Well, thanks for saying that, Matthew. I appreciate that, and it's been a pleasure. Honestly, it really has.
Yeah, it has. It's been great. Yeah, Ian, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, see you in about a week, yeah.
You got it. I'll see you in about a week, all right? You got it. Thanks so much. Matthew. It was awesome.
Okay, be safe.
You got it. That's Ian Hill, everybody. Love him, man. Love Judas Priest. It's KLOS New and Approved. I'm Matt Pinfield. Thanks so much for watching and listening to us.